Is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking.
Ooh, welcome to DBL. Hello, you two.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Everyone looking fine. Looking good. I'm back after a week off. Did you all miss me? Yes. Okay. So let's talk about what we did. It was a big holiday weekend. There was Easter. There was Pesach. What did you do for Easter, Miss Erica? And do you have proof that you did this?
Do I have proof?
Yeah.
Well, I stayed home with my my sister and my husband, and yeah, we just hung out at the house. My husband made a really nice meal. We had the meal on Saturday because he was like, we should rest on the Sabbath. So that was our meal from Saturday. Jure came over. So yeah, it was nice. It was really nice.
He cooked the whole thing. Did you? I watched a little bit, and you had recipes. I was wondering if you used your recipes.
So I chopped. That was my big thing. That was my contribution. I'm more like decor and chopping.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sous chef and that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, how was your Easter?
Good.
With the kidlets?
Pretty kidlets. Pretty simple. We went to church, went out to eat. Usually I cook, but I didn't. So we went out and had some papados or papados.
Yeah. I love
I love that place. Did that and then kind of just crashed. You know, we were doing stuff all weekend. We had football games and Easter egg hunts, and I just came back, watched the Masters, and I'm like, I'm out. Yeah, it was pretty simple.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It was good. Did you guys do egg hunting?
Yeah, I mean, so throughout the week, it's
good.
by Sunday, I'm like, all right, the Easter bunny's here. Let's get ready for school.
Let's hop on over.
Yeah.
That's so
What
fun.
about you?
I was home for DC, and I had a little bit of a Seder. Thank you for my cousin Shelly for having that Seder. And then I was actually with my mom because, unfortunately, she got very, very ill. And so we had to work on healing her and getting her to a place where she was not in excruciating pain. So it was a lot of Tori coming up with creative races down the lines and looking at the art in the hospital, you know, anything you could do to get her out of that room. Yeah. So for all the caregivers out there, just a big shout out. It's a lot to take, it's hard, but we see you here and I am one of you and I understand that, so it was hard. But we did manage to have a Passover.
There you go.
Little matzah. Do you guys like matzah? The flat?
I like matzah.
You like matzah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeff?
sure.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like my go-to,
No, it's
but
not your go-to, right? Okay, that's
I'm more of a mozzarella guy, not
yeah.
matzo.
Brooks thought matzo ball soup was just hot water with a ball of mozzarella.
Oh, but it's a hot bowl with bread.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff.
All right, great.
All right, in honor of today, the Monday after holiday, as we all just spoke about, we thought we should talk about this huge trend. All right, some of you are going to throw things at the TV. It's called Bare Minimum Mondays, which advocates for doing what it says, the bare minimum at work, nothing more or less. The hashtag has more than 4 million views on TikTok, with people sharing their strategies. Now, the idea is that by doing the bare minimum, this will save you from burnout, also from dreading Mondays too much, which can also ruin your Sunday scaries. But others are saying, yo, this is just like procrastination and slacking at work. What is your take? Please write us in on YouTube. I want to read, and also on our DBL app. Bare Minimum Mondays. This is for self-care. Erica, thoughts?
I am here for some self-care.
Okay.
But I think when you put a bar at the bare minimum, it doesn't exactly help in the long run, in my opinion. Now, for people who are going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and most of us are, I can understand needing to temper, because on the weekends, it's very hard for me to shut down. But I've been trying to shut down because I realize that I'm always operating at a very...
You're on a lot.
Yeah, I'm on all the time. So I don't say bare minimum anything. I just say check in with yourself. There might be a more streamlined approach than you're taking right now.
Which is different than bare minimum, taking care. What do you think about that?
Yeah, Erica's being very kind.
I know.
Because if everyone is going so fast, scary Sundays and bare minimum Mondays aren't in your vernacular. You know what I mean? You're going for it. For me, healthcare is starting Monday off right. You know what I mean? And even when I talked to my old boss, he'd inspire me, there is no such thing as a day of the week. You get it going on Tuesday, you get it going on Thursday, you get it going on Saturday. But for me, I like to reset on Mondays, right? Maybe start on Sunday. Monday, I like to get in a workout. I like to get things done because it sets the tone for the rest of my week. If you're saying I'm going to do the bare minimum today, that means, you know what? maybe I'll just eat these chips here. And then on Tuesday, you know what? I already took Monday off. And then all before you know it, the week's gone and you're not doing anything. So for me, this is horrific. I'm not this. Do you at home? But in my home, my kids are going to learn. You got to get things done. You got to do it, and then you have a little celebration.
I agree. I kind of think that self-care here is being mislabeled here. Self-care is something that's important, but I think self-care in this sense is a bit. I'm sort of outraged. It's a bit lazy and entitled, especially for the younger generation, which people already assume is somewhat entitled. But bare minimum means you don't work to any part of your potential. You don't care about that. That doesn't spark you. And if you're really going to go far in life, that seems to be the place to go, where you have potential.
Yeah, when I work hard and I'm tired at the end of the day and I did things that I needed to do, I went to work, I worked out, I worked on some other projects of my own, and I go to bed, that's my self-care.
Yeah,
I feel like, wow, I accomplished something today, I feel good, let's crush it again tomorrow. If I skip it or do bare minimum and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, I could have done so much more. That's bad for my psyche. So I guess people's minds work in different ways.
Do you think that bare minimum Mondays comes out as entitled to the older generation? I mean, is this a generational thing?
I don't know. I hate to everything is like, oh, they're entitled.
Right.
Oh, they're lazy.
I don't like that phrase either,
like
but does
I don't like that. I think that there are people who think about times in your life where maybe what you were doing wasn't really the driving light behind what your life. You're just kind of
like scooping
in a
ice cream.
situation. Yeah, you're in a situation for a moment. And yeah, I can understand not wanting to put everything into it. But I also think that you can redirect that energy and think about where it is you really want to go and put more energy into that, because that part of your life doesn't really feel like work.
Yeah. And I agree with you, barely minimum Mondays would make my barely minimum Tuesdays. Then I'm slowly going into never getting out of bed Wednesdays into I'm not showering on Thursdays. You know what I mean? That's not what I do now. Okay, just to let you guys know, Tuesdays are the most productive day of the week, and Monday is the second most productive. Friday is the least productive of the entire week. 64% of Gen Z and millennials reported feeling more stressed overall compared to their older counterparts. So I wonder if this is a generational.
Who made that? Who told you that?
My producer.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Studies, I love them.
Studies, he loves them. And let us know what your most productive day is. I think I'm a good Thursday. Really nice on Thursday. Coming up, DBL, our interview with Holly Robinson Pete and Rodney Pete. They tell us what it was like hosting a dating show together. And a crime reporter goes viral for her advice on how to be safe from burglars when you're home alone. We're talking about it coming up next.
Somebody roll the clip.
Let's make sure we have Jeff's sex tape.
Wow, things are getting spicy here at DBL.
Cold-hearted snake, look into his eyes.
Let's roll that again, everybody.
If you do the bare minimum too, again, I think there's a difference between. Yeah, self-care is different than bare minimum, so I just want to separate those two. But someone wrote, what would Cyndi Lauper say? Oh. Just another manic Monday. You are so right, and I am so glad you are here, BJ. Thank you for saying that. Right, Erica says rolling trouble. I don't think it's a generational thing, says Kimberly Land. Calling it self-care is probably a generational thing. However, I do take offense when people are always like, these millennials, they're so entitled. I think they're realizing they're getting paid squat and they have terrible hours and they're being treated like not great. So instead of asking them to be less entitled, perhaps we ask the corporations to pay bigger, stronger wages.
Well, I think
that.
it's interesting because that's where I go back and forth. It's like, realistically, we all had to do that.
Yeah.
They just are understanding that there are other options,
yeah.
And so it doesn't feel like either we have to work for less and get less. We can actually go and get a gig and we can do all of these. That we can change our lifestyle. We don't have to
live in that way.
We grew up in generations where it was you were with this company. Our parents were with those
GM
companies
forever.
for 50 years,
Right.
and they retired there. And
Right.
this is a generation that's I don't want to be where I'm tolerated. I want to be where I'm celebrated, and they have more options.
They have resources.
So they're exercising it. Now, we won't know for probably another decade or so, if that was the best move or not.
Or we're all sad. But bare minimum Monday, come on guys, let's bring it up. 30. I've missed that talent, Rob. Very good camera work. Welcome back to DBL. A crime reporter has gone viral. She's given folks advice on how to stay safe from burglars when you're home alone. Take a look at this.
You should not get quiet and pretend you're not home whenever someone knocks on your door. The burglars that I interview say once they realize someone's inside, the vast majority of them, again, will go find another house. They'll go look for an empty house. So I see so many cases, you guys, where it doesn't turn out well, where someone hears someone knock and you think, oh, they'll just go away if I get quiet and hide. And bad things happen. And I see this a lot with kids. So I would definitely encourage you to teach your kids, if someone knocks, don't get quiet and pretend they're not there. Make a ruckus.
Make a ruckus. What do we think of this advice? Make a ruckus. You've dealt with this.
Yeah, so some years back, well, like 4 years ago, someone attempted to break into my home. I was at home. I was in the shower at the time. So I heard it, but I didn't understand what was happening. Luckily, we have cameras. So I was able to get out of the shower and realize that someone was somewhere in my house, but I didn't know where. I could hear them.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't know where. Luckily, I was locked into my home, like into my room. So there were multiple locks in order to get to where I was. And so I hunkered down because I thought at that point he was already inside the home. It turned out that he was in the home. He was in the home, like, I'm not gonna describe my house, but basically he was in the house, but not in the house, okay?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and I called 911, like I was able to, and there were some things that, like, living in a house, this was the first time I was ever living in a house. So I required my husband that we had to have cameras and we had to have an alarm system. So I was able to hit the panic button.
Smart.
And that's what got him out.
Smart. Does it
in
go
hindsight? Right.
Like
it's like burglar.
Yeah.
So that's why he escaped the home. But ultimately, if he watched the house for 15 minutes. Like, I can see him on camera watching the house. And our house didn't look like anyone was home, but our house never looks like anyone's home. So I would agree that he wasn't there to necessarily do anything to anyone. He was trying to probably get a quick score and run on.
Right. I watch and read a lot of, and watch and listen to, a lot of Datelines. They say burglars are rarely violent. They want you to be gone. They don't want you to be there. It made us think of that movie, what is it, Home Alone, where Macaulay's doing the thing just to make people, like, in the silhouettes.
Well, that's where your mind went.
Yeah,
You know that scene where it's like someone's home, you know? That's right, uses Michael Jordan.
Well, that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good tactic back then. Yeah, but now we have cameras, and if you could afford them, it's good to have a camera on there. Most burglars aren't violent, you say. Well, guess who is? I am. So if you mess around my home, it's going to get violent. But I do have cameras, right? So if someone does come to the door, and speaking of the opposite of violent, I'm like, well, I'm not getting that. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily open the door all the time, but having cameras, if you could invest in something like that, it's not that expensive. You know who's there, especially if you have children, the front door and back door, who's coming and going, and you know. So I think that's the answer. I don't know if answering the door. You ever see Sebastian Maniscalco? He goes through this whole thing. You guys never saw this?
No.
So Italian people, like when you grow up, I mean probably everybody, you're so excited, right? When we were kids and the doorbell rang, you know? And he's like, now when someone rings the doorbell, he's like, shut the lights off. He's like, everybody hide. No one answered the door. And that's where we are in society as opposed to 20 years ago.
Especially after COVID, if someone knocks at my door and they expect me to come out, I'm like, what is going on? We had someone try to bang in at 2 in the morning, and she was so honest. Like, she goes, are you serious? Let me in. Are you really gonna do this? Come on. And so Brooks and I are like, are we in the wrong house? Like, I felt like I was in the wrong. But after that, we got bear spray just to have at the ready, a baseball bat. And again, for women, and again, this is just for historical context, if you do have to answer the door, I always say, oh yeah, someone's at the door, as if someone's in the house with me. So I'm not alone in the house, if that makes sense.
But why are you opening the door?
I do get the doorbell anxiety of, like, it rings, you answer, almost like a Pavlovian dog.
You don't even answer your phone, though.
I answer the door more than the phone, which isn't good. I know it. Coming up on DBL, we talk with Holly Robinson, Pete, and Rodney Pete all about the dating show they're hosting that features some famous contestants. Stay tuned for that.
On March 7th, Virginia Senator Mark Warner introduced the Restrict Act amid concerns that TikTok could be used by China to spy on Americans. Several viral posts, each with millions of views, claim that if the bill is passed as written, it would also give the government access to home devices like Ring cameras and smart speakers.
Everything in my house, they have access to with this law.
So let's verify. Does the Restrict Act give the federal government access to data from your home devices? Our sources are the Restrict Act, Senator Warner, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and the American Civil Liberties Union. Many of the posts highlight a list in the bill that includes wireless networks, various access points, and cloud storage, and claim that these are places where the US government would be allowed to spy on Americans. But that's not what the bill actually says. Section 5 directs the Secretary of Commerce to prioritize evaluating products or services that use the infrastructure on that list and ensure it's not being used inappropriately by foreign countries, like China. If the Commerce Department determines that's happening, then it must publicly notify Congress. Warner says lawmakers could then decide to ban the company or impose privacy or corporate transparency requirements, adding, quote, "This bill doesn't give the government any power to track what you're searching. In fact, it is aimed at countering foreign surveillance from authoritarian nations," unquote. Even groups that oppose the bill for other reasons, like the ACLU and EFF, agree the Restrict Act would not give the government access to your private data. The ACLU told Verify that most personal information is already protected from the government by the Fourth Amendment. So, no, the Restrict Act does not give the federal government access to data from your home devices. Congress hasn't taken any action toward passing the bill since it was introduced in March. With you at Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back to DBL. Rodney and Holly Robinson Peete tied the knot 28 years ago, and now they're helping reality TV queens find love that will stand the test of time. We caught up with them earlier. Check it out. Please welcome Rodney and Holly Robinson Peete. Could I just,
guys, how are you?
We're wonderful. Thanks, guys. Could I just say 28 years together? You guys look like you're 28 years old.
You really do.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Looking great.
I always look good when I'm next to her.
That's why you've been married 28 years. That's the right age.
Right there.
That's the secret. We're done. Mic drop.
I love it. You guys are just a beautiful couple. And so let's get right into it, guys. Holly, as the co-host of Queen's Court, one of the co-hosts of Queen's Court, you're helping both Tamar, Evelyn, and Nivea find true love. What helped you guys survive all the challenges that come with marrying and dating a fellow celeb?
Wow, that's a long answer, but a long question, short answer, but the bottom line is it's just really a matter of being on the same page, right? Rodney and I knew that our love was worth fighting for. We have certainly gone through some things. 30 years ago, we're still together. And that was one of the reasons why we really were excited about coming on and co-hosting, because we wanted to share some of our secret sauce, if you will. But we also we knew the pitfalls. So we love these ladies so much. We were so invested in them finding kings. And it was just a blast to film.
All right, well, Rodney, you already nailed it. You knocked that out of the park with the first answer. So let's see if you can talk to the dudes. What's the secret to a long-lasting marriage?
Well, I think Holly mentioned it. You got to stay on the same page. And I think one of the things that we did before we got married was we sat down with a therapist and we went over what we liked, what we didn't like, what the rules were. So we knew going in that there weren't going to be any surprises, whether it be kids, how we're going to raise our kids, how many kids we wanted, what was okay in a relationship and what was not okay. And we got all of that out of the way early and before we got married, and that helped us along the way. And it's an up and down journey, and you got to be able to be there. Everything's great when it's rosy and things are going good.
Right.
But in those tough times, are you going to run away or are you going to sit down and deal with it? And we chose to sit down and deal with it.
I love it. So Holly,
years later, they're still sitting down.
Beautiful. Holly, Tamar is getting married, and she actually met her fiance on Queen's Court. Were you surprised she actually found love on a reality show? Because who does that? And I'm just being facetious. Facetious? Facetious? What I was going to say is I found love on a reality show, oddly enough, without that facetious.
Listen, there was a time when people laughed at online dating. I know a lot of people who have found mates, and life partners online. So why not a reality show? I think what I love most about Queen's Court is that these are 3 women who have lived their lives in the public. They've shared their journeys, their ups, their downs, their drama. They've worked on themselves and grown. So they were open to it. Our job was to get them to throw away that list. That list, you need to be this, you need to be that, you need to be this. Our job was to get them to go, hey, you know what? Listen, don't judge a book by its cover, be open to love, and you never know what happened. And it just so happens that this experiment worked, and we're just pulling for these couples.
Well, I am all in on Queen's Court. I finished it recently. I went down the Twitter sphere to see how everybody else felt about it. What I love so much about the show is it's the ultimate comeback story for love, because what we think we know about the Queens, we really don't know. So it's so exciting. But there was one part in the show, without giving away any spoilers, where one of the Queens didn't want her family to meet the people that she was dating before she was committed. So do you think it's important to get input from family about who you're dating?
It just depends. For that one queen, he was cousin Rodney, and I was Holly, and we were her family. I think it just depends. Family's tricky. So I admired and totally respected her choice to not have her family there and have her family weigh in. And that's another thing I loved about Queen's Court. Every one of these queens was different, had a different vibe, different energy, and they found their king by committee. They weren't infighting, they weren't going at each other, and they supported each other on this journey.
You guys.
Well, I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan, and I love seeing you guys on Queen's Court. It's such a reminder of all the things that are possible. You sitting in front of the 3 of them was like so impactful. So thank you for bringing that to the table, because so many people needed to see that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Holly and Rodney, thanks so much for joining us today. To our audience, you can watch Queen's Court now streaming on Peacock. Thank you again, guys. We'll be right back.
Come back soon.
We asked Verify viewers to send us questions about storm safety tips they've learned over the years, and took them straight to these sources. First, were you ever told as a kid to count the seconds between the flash and the boom to figure out how far away a lightning strike is? So let's verify. Does each second really mean a storm is a mile away? We'll need to do some math here, but don't worry. The Weather Service says the sound of thunder takes 5 seconds to travel 1 mile. So if you see a lightning strike and it takes 5 seconds to hear thunder, then the lightning is 1 mile away. If it takes 10 seconds, then the strike was 2 miles away. So no, each second between lightning and thunder does not mean the lightning is 1 mile away. It's actually 1 mile for every 5 seconds. And regardless, our experts say if you can hear the thunder, then it's time to head indoors.
It's kind of the storm's warning shot sometimes that, hey, this is what's coming.
All right, let's say the storm looked and sounded really close. Several Verify viewers asked us, will lightning always strike the highest point? So let's verify. Generally, our experts say lightning will strike the tallest point, but it depends on what's nearby. If you're next to a giant building with a sophisticated lightning rod system, then that'll probably get hit. If you're standing next to a single tree in an empty field, then you may be more at risk. This is because lightning is always looking for the least resistant path to the ground, which could mean hitting a shorter object or even the ground itself. Since there's no way to predict this ahead of time, it's best to just head for safety when you see lightning. So no, lightning does not always strike the highest point, and it's safest to just make sure you're not the tallest object during a storm. Okay, finally, let's say you counted the seconds and realized a storm is on the way, and you're now safely indoors. What now? Amanda asked us if you should avoid taking a bath or shower during a thunderstorm. This question may seem a little far-fetched, but our experts say there are rare cases where lightning can travel through metal piping. This can carry an electrical charge to anyone using water, whether it's in the shower, doing dishes, or even on the toilet.
There are 10 and 20 cases every year. I did look this up, 10 to 20 cases every year that people report being electrocuted while in their bathtub or inside their home. So while it's not likely, it's very possible. It could happen.
Even people with plastic piping should think twice about using water during a storm. The CDC says since water is a conductor of electricity, plastic pipes can also carry a charge. So, yes, you should avoid taking a bath or shower during a thunderstorm. We answered even more of your questions about lightning and thunderstorms on our website, verifythis.com, and explained how lightning is even formed in the first place. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. Did you know any food or drink that can stain a white t-shirt can stain your teeth? Coffee, wine, blueberries, pasta sauce, the list goes on. Thankfully, Smile Actives has a solution. With Smile Actives' new Pro Whitening Gel, effective tooth whitening can be achieved right at home with no trays, no strips, no uncomfortable lights, or a trip to the dentist. Simply add the Pro Whitening Gel to any toothpaste you have, and you brush. There's no extra time, there's no effort needed, and in a clinical study, users saw improvement of up to 8 shades after using the gel for 30 days. Smile Actives is safe, it's effective, and it'll even work on crowns, bonding, and dentures. Order today for a special buy one, get one free offer. Don't wait to get your brighter, whiter smile. Call 1-800-700-4040 or visit smileactives.com today. I always worry about my teeth after I do a Smile Actives thing, but I think we did have a little video more of from your Easter. We didn't get to. Someone's in bunny ear. What is going on?
Conveniently, you forgot to slip that in there, Erica.
You look adorable. Oh, listen to me.
We had fun this weekend.
Dude.
Yes, we did.
It would have been a different show if we led with that.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
It totally would have been. Enjoy the bunny hop. DBL is new every day. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Bye, guys.